Good morning, and it's Owain Gwynedd Grifith, and I'd love to find out the origins of your Welsh name, Owain.
Well, yeah, that's it's a long one, isn't it? It's a proper Welsh mouthful. My actual full name is Owain Gwynedd Grifith, but it was so long I ended up dropping the Tudor, which was my father's name. It's still kind of officially my name, but it's just a mouthful, so I kind of shortened it slightly. Then Gwynedd was my grandfather's name, and also I'm a boy from the county of Gwynedd, so I slotted in nicely. And then Owain was just a name my parents fancied, and it tied in nicely as well with the Prince of Wales, Owain Gwynedd. It's a mouthful, but I think people can guess where I come from by my name.
Owain, you've got a lovely career. I've followed you on, not from a point of view of stalking, by the way, on LinkedIn, and I'm highly impressed by the fact that you're a TV presenter. So tell us about that. Tell us the background to that choice.
It's probably a long story. Started back in 2009 when I put my head to wanting to be a TV presenter. My background was I was probably fairly academic in school. Really enjoyed my sports. Probably spent too much time playing rugby as well. So very academic. Went to Cardiff University, studied law. Spent too much time playing rugby. Not concentrating enough on my law degree, which probably meant in hindsight that I did enjoy it and therefore didn't want to progress with that career. Graduated, started working for the local council back in Gwynedd as an auditor. So again, following the academic route, and was at the time studying to be an accountant. Then it just kind of dawned on me that this isn't the career for me. And I need to kind of look into alternative careers, and being a pilot was one. Probably a few other things came to mind, but I vividly remember watching a Welsh language youth program called Uned Pimp. I'm thinking, gosh, and they were advertising the presenters at the time. And gosh, the presenters that were there were having a whale of a time. They were having a ball. They were traveling the world. They were doing things that I could only imagine and dream of. I think, gosh, I wouldn't mind having a bit of that. And I just thought, look, why not try? I don't have any background in performing, singing, reciting, as most probably Welsh language people do, going through school with their Eisteddfods, the airs and different things. I hated all that type of stuff in school. I just didn't like being on stage, didn't like people looking at me kind of on stage. I just got really embarrassed. So I thought, gosh, it's not really down my street from I'm used to, but it's just something resonated with me, and I really wanted to try this. So I had to take that leap. They asked me to provide a show reel, which I didn't have anything. So I had to go and record some stuff on camera, put it together, and send it off. Anyway, unexpectedly, slightly, they went, yeah, come for a screen test. Went for a screen test, did okay. But on the whole, I impressed them. Unfortunately, didn't get the job. But lit the fire in my belly that I wanted to carry on with this career. But I really enjoyed that. So I just waited for the next opportunity, which came about 6 months later, again for a different program on S4C. They were relaunching the kids service, the children's service on S4C, and they were looking for a new team of full-time presenters. So I thought, okay, I'll try for this again. Sent the show reel away, got a screen test, and I actually, I'm not sure how often I say this. My screen test was with Alex Jones for the One Show.
We love Alex.
Yeah, so I had to co-present this mock show in front of three people who decided on the presenters. So yeah, that went well. And then a few months later, I got offered the job. So within 6 months, really, of deciding I wanted to be a TV presenter. Fortunately, right place, right time, things went well. I got my break.
Excellent. That's such an uplifting build to where you are now. So what I'd ask you is, who inspires you? Because I'm somebody that is known to want to inspire people to inspire others, but you get to a point, even I would get to a point where we need inspiration. So where would Owain find inspiration?
As a young, I probably still do. Like I remember being young, especially playing rugby as well, being a big sportsman. My inspiration, I don't have to look far, is I probably, like everybody else, probably count 3 people. That's mainly on my hand, who at the time I was younger, I really wanted to impress, because they inspired me and helped me a lot. Mum, obviously, she was a single parent, so brought us three children. I'm the youngest of three boys. All went to university. She worked hard. She gave us every opportunity that she could provide us, and hopefully we took those opportunities. So she inspired me, and I wanted to make her proud of me. And same with the godparents who lived across the road. They were like a second set of parents for me. So I remember getting a letter when I was about 15, 16, and being picked in the Wales under 16s rugby squad, and got home from school. The letter was on doormat. Thinking, great, open it. I was in the extended squad. So I was trying to get my shoes back on. So I had odd shoes on, running across the road. I'm in the team. So yeah, they were the 3 people when I was younger that really inspired me, because they helped me so much. And then it's just, again, today, close friends and family. I think they're the ones who inspire me to want to be the best that I can be, and to keep working hard. I
followed rugby from a very young age because I had no choice, really. It was their breakfast, lunch and supper, and especially after the games on Saturday, because it was the post-mortem. So I grew up following the Grace, and luckily caught up with them at Cardiff, because they were in that 70 bracket, 1970s onwards, and so I've seen the best of the best, and still do. Shane Williams for me was one of my favourites. So it's giving back to you that kind of absolute cracking kind of speed and style that is unique and still is. So what that leads me to is the question to you is, what would you say is your why? Why do you do the things you do at the minute?
Yeah, it's a good question. I always kind of think about this, why do I do it? Because sometimes, probably like everybody else, you have good times and you have bad times, and you can ask why do I do this? Ultimately, probably because I enjoy it. And again, going back to the inspiration question, I want people to be proud of me, so I strive to work hard to try and succeed. So people can be proud of me in one way. And also, as you kind of get older, you kind of want to provide for family. Those are the type of whys. And I always kind of get this question thinking, oh gosh, what should the answer be? But my why is kind of, again, to make friends and family proud. I enjoy it. I probably as well enjoy the stress of it at times, which is probably slightly sadistic. Because being a TV presenter, it does get stressful. Things, you're on telly, things go wrong. You don't want to look a fool in front of people. 100,000, how many people are watching the program? So yeah, they're probably my main whys. But the enjoyment, I think, from what I found from my career, especially with the rugby sports side, I was obsessed with rugby, playing rugby when I was younger. Same as well with TV. Kind of was obsessed with wanting to be a presenter. Once I got that bug, I was obsessed with wanting to make it, to have a career and to feel stable. And being obsessed, you have to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, you won't get obsessed, and you probably won't carry on. You kind of hit a hurdle, go, I don't enjoy this. Then I'm not obsessed with it. Then you just fall off. So they're probably my whys in continuing to do what I do. And again, having reached a fairly, even though I'm always striving for better and for more, having had a lot of good experiences and been fairly successful, I appreciate those moments as well. Speaking about Shane Williams, and while I've had the privilege to work with Shane a number of times, I text him from time to time, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And then I look back and go, gosh, when I was younger, I was looking up to Shane Williams as a hero on the rugby field. And now I'm working with him. It's slightly surreal.
Yes, it is. That's a lovely insight there. So following that kind of insight, what tips, because you mentioned, and lots of my networks would be people who have been under the spotlight, but they're not presenters as yet. Some have gone on to write books, etc., and some of them have gone to do coaching. But we're very aware of the pressure of being underneath cameras and having to go and so on. So what tips, because you mentioned there, things do go wrong. I've done presentations where halogen bulbs have blown and they're very expensive to replace. And I've ended up resorting back to, believe it or not, the whiteboard at the back because there was nothing working, no power was working. So what tips would you give people in that situation when things go wrong?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because you always prepare. To be successful, I think you've got to prepare for everything, and everyone who does a presentation, you prepare to the best of your abilities. And when things go wrong, it's usually unexpected because in that preparation, in the practice or whatever, it usually goes swimmingly. And I was fortunate to have the grounding, again, going back to start my career with kids telly, where you had a forgiving audience. If things went wrong, they just accepted it, and it gave you that ability to practice when things went wrong. So my weaknesses at the beginning was I was nervous. That nerve then kind of, when you get nervous, you get foggy, you get cloudy, you don't think as quick. So I had that opportunity to practice presenting, help those nerves settle. So the more you do it, the more those nerves will probably go away. So again, probably that first tip would be practice makes perfect. So the more you do it, those nerves will settle anyway. When things do go wrong, prepare for it as well. Because I remember when I prepared for my first screen test, and I knew somebody who kind of was working in the media, I went for a chat with him, and he went, look, things will go wrong. They may throw you a curveball in a screen test of, Ryan, this has happened, what do you talk about? And I was like, I don't know. Ryan, what's the colour of his socks? And he just gave me, it just kind of threw a few things of what do you talk about? And that kind of made me think, if things go wrong, always have a backup plan, or just have some talking points you can fill until somebody else, especially tell you've got a crew of people working on the production. You've got the director, the producer in your ear, you've got the camera crew, you've got the lighting. So there's people about who will try and maybe fix the issue. So when you're live telly, there's a bit more pressure just to talk and fill. And if you've got a co-presenter, you can bounce off them. So it's always have a backup plan of talking points or whatever you can have to fill whilst those problems are being fixed. But also that experience by doing stuff early on, be a smaller scale before you kind of launch yourself into bigger presentations or bigger stages. Those would probably throw up little hiccups along the way, and then you kind of know when those hiccups come, how to deal with them. And that's been my experience. You sort of learn along the road how to deal with it, and the more you do, the better you become with dealing with it. But also, when things have gone in my experience, I find it quite empowering.
Yes.
Because usually, especially with TV programs, there's a lot of people involved where most of them direct you what to do. No, don't tell you word for word what to say or what to do, but you get a lot of direction in your ear. Time to go to the break, time to do this, time to do that. So if that talk back cuts out, well, they can't talk to you. So it's quite empowering. You kind of take the responsibility. Okay, I can do what I want now without they'll have to follow me, where I've been having to follow them. So it's quite empowering. You can just, it's liberating. You can do, Ryan, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to do, and within parameters, they'll follow me and they'll be fine.
Yes, lovely. I can resonate with all of that. because we call it a boss mind. Once you have a boss mind, and you feel confident, you then go, right, this is what I'm doing, and the direction is there. Something I spotted, which really did light my fire, was the fact that you're a pilot, or you're training to be a pilot.
Yeah, I've got a private pilot's license. I wouldn't call myself a proper pilot, but I'm competent enough to go up and fly around my local area, and it's enjoyable. It's surreal. The background to that was, again, thinking of a career. From being in an airport one time, thinking, oh gosh, a job as a pilot would be fantastic. Then she went to the local airport in Cardiff, had a lesson, thought, yeah, I'll carry on with this. Couldn't get a commercial medical license, which would allow me to carry on with commercial training, but could get a level 2 PPL medical. So just for the enjoyment of it, I carried on, and just really enjoyed it. It's just surreal, and I'd recommend anybody, if you just went for a pleasure flight, just go up in your local area. It just gives you a totally different perspective to everything. And from where I'm from in North Wales, the Snowdonia Mountains, mountain range, the Penllyn Peninsula, it's stunning. But it just gave me such a different perspective being up there to geography where I was from. And yeah, it was just amazing. It's an amazing experience. And then going up by yourself, the buzz, the adrenaline you got from my first solo flight, from just doing circuits around the airfield and landing by myself. Yeah, I'm sure there's a bit of adrenaline in there somewhere as well to spark me to want to carry on.
Yes, I can relate to all of that. And I was told that I had verbal diarrhea with just the adrenaline of being on a microlight and seeing the Gower. And
yeah,
physically, I have walked miles of the Gower, north and south, but this was the first time ever I'd been invited to look from a microlight. And as you quite rightly say, it's another experience in another world. It's an amazing, it's a gift, really, that you have that privilege to have that removed oversight of the whole area. Because we do live in the country.
Yeah, and you don't appreciate it, because I work a lot in Llanelli, so I live in Cardiff, work in Llanelli quite often. Most of my days are sat on the M4, back and forth, and when I go up north, the A470. And it's, you're rushing from one place to another, so you don't really take it in when you're on the road. The M4 is in the most glamorous part of Wales. So when you kind of go off the beaten track, go up in the air, you do see kind of how green Wales is when you're up there. And how kind of sparse the towns and cities are. It is amazing. And as I said, I'd recommend anybody to do it. Just go up once and go up over your local area. And you'll see just how close towns are to each other. I went to sixth form Pwllheli, played my rugby in Carnarvon when I was younger. And I thought, these places, they're not that close. But once you're in the air, you can literally go, one's there, the other's there. That community is so close and so tight and tighter than you think.
Absolutely. I see that therapy because I'm a trained coach, and I mentored. I was in the Chamber of Commerce, and there was an accountant, going back to your earlier thoughts of accountancy, and funding. He's a funding manager stroke accountant, and highly stressed because he was living out of the car. All his filing cabinet wasn't in files, it was in the car. And I remember looking at him, and because I've got a well-being background, I just said, look, what is it that you love doing and haven't done it for a while? And he said, well, I've got a plane, an aeroplane. And I said, well, do you use it? No. I said, why not? I haven't got the time. So I'm very pleased to say I encourage him to go back in the plane. And yes, he rekindled that love again.
Yeah, well, I need to do it this summer. I'm not sure if I mentioned, I need to your license lasts for 2 years, so I need to revalidate or renew my license this summer. So I've got a few hours I need to catch up on. So yeah, hopefully a bit of good weather. I'm a fair weather pilot.
All right. Yeah, not the bumpy one. I'd encourage you, Owain, to do that as you get busier. Always remember what Carolyn is saying. Don't forget the aeroplane. From a digital, right? We're into. I will edit this in YouTube, and that's something that we have at our disposal, obviously, and things like this were not for us years ago, because I was blogging and I only had blogging as a website blog and that kind of thing. But now we've got this capacity to be able to talk to anybody, like we are in Wales, with America, with India, etc., etc. So what would you say is your digital strength?
Oh, good question. My digital strength. Yeah, I don't know.
You've
I try,
arrived on Zoom, so that's one.
Yeah. So that's one. I think lockdown taught us a lot. Again, I did a few Zoom interviews. The world was quickly made a smaller place during COVID, because everybody had to communicate through Zoom, and that technology then quickly opened the doors and avenues, as you said, to a lot of people to do online interviews, Zoom interviews, publicizing themselves. And then there's been a lot of mediums of your social media. So there's a lot of avenues these days, and it's hard to keep up with everything. So my strength is, Zoom. I use LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all those. Do I use them effectively? I don't know. I try. I've got a website, a personal website as well, which I created not too long ago, a month or two ago. Yes. Because the truth of it is, everybody has a digital footprint these days and a digital identity. So you need to portray yourself professionally. Especially in my profession, every office profession, you want to come across professional. So I try to improve my digital skills. You're working in the media, you think my digital skills would be quite good, but most of my stuff is done in front of the camera, not behind it. Yeah. But needing to be multi-skilled, and I think it's important to have those slight editing skills like you'll be doing after this, and then publishing on various platforms. I think it's important for everyone to have that core set of abilities these days.
Yes, and to give you back my energy on that, it's a really I feel privileged and enjoy my conversation so much that I want to be able to fulfill, editing and making sure that it's published, making sure that I give you the promotion for these platforms. So that in effect is highlighting, spotlighting. So you become a digital spotlighter. And then you become a digital signature, because your name is known. It is rather a fabulous Welsh name. So it's that kind of thing. It's looking at your, as you quite rightly said earlier, the footprint. Where you start and where and where you're moving to. So moving to, where would you say it's Owain's happy place?
Happy place. My happy place is probably, and I've been there. I don't know if as I get older, not that it's changed, but I appreciate it more. Most of my time off, I go home up to North Wales. Yes. So my partner's, she's a farmer's daughter, and they live in Anglesey. So my happy place now is going home to see my mum and help her around place. She also has an allotment. She drags me into the allotment to do a bit of digging for her, and also going back to the farm, because I find that it grounds me quite quickly.
Yes.
Seeing old friends. And it's a different community up there. I don't know if it's a community because it's just where I've been brought up. I can go back and I feel like I slot in there straight away. I can walk up the high street. I'll stop for a chat for 10, 20 minutes with somebody I haven't seen for a while. So my happy place is just going home, if I'm honest. I wanted to travel a lot, and I have travelled a bit over the years, but I always feel now my time off is, I don't want to go abroad anymore as much as I used to. Even though I enjoy those experiences, still do, and I still get opportunities with work to go abroad. But I feel like if I want to relax, it's just going home on the farm. But I'm not a farmer, and I help that much. But it just it grounds me that the simple things in life are important as well.
That reminds me of Nigel Owens.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
His love of cows.
Yeah, I would say I'm more scared of the cows than actually love them. They're quite feisty. You wouldn't believe.
It does make me smile when he has been so clever in his career of handling, top sportsmen on the pitch, and then the next minute, and he's dealing with these cows.
Yeah, it's great for him because he's fulfilling a long-term ambition now. He's planned his career well. His wrestling career came to an end, but he'd already sowed those seeds of making that transition into post-life rugby. And I think, I'm the same as well. In my career, you're always looking ahead to what's next.
Yeah.
You don't want to stop doing what you're doing, but especially with TV presenting, there's a shelf life. There's obviously a time where maybe I won't be doing it as much. Maybe years from now, could be whenever. So you're always looking, what's the next transition in life? Where would I go next, or what? Where do I fit into next? So it's always it's nice to have a plan or some kind of options looking forward to the future. And Nigel's clever and Nigel's wise, where he used his time on the playing field to plan his off-field days.
That's why I mentioned his name, because obviously, when you talked about farming, and I have memories of being in farmyards as well. And when I see cows, which I do on the Gower, and horses, I'm back to that again, back to the child in that farm environment. So Nigel has made that transition, and you too will make the transition. And that's an important factor of being an entrepreneur, is being aware of where you're going and how you then can transition.
Yeah, and it's always, and so I think it's always important to have options in terms of, I kind of not that I banked on being a presenter, because I think it's, the percentage of people probably working as a TV presenter who wanted to work as a TV presenter is fairly small.
Yes.
And I've got to pinch myself at times and just remind myself I've been fortunate to have the career that I have. 12 years now since I started my first job, and I'm still working in a field. I do daytime TV programs for SOC. I do a lot of sports. I get to meet a lot of fantastic people. So I've got to pinch myself that I'm still in that bubble and it's still going.
Yes.
But I kind of banked early on that's what I wanted to do, and I worked my socks off to get it and to keep it going. But now I can learn it's important to have different avenues, different options, so you can fall back on a few different things. So I've got an events company with a good friend of mine, Geraint, so we're both working on that. I'm developing my behind the camera skills and developing TV programs myself where I wouldn't be in front of the camera. So it's important to have options. So if one fails or goes quiet, that you can turn to other things to have a base, a platform, a career as well, post other interests. And knowing Nigel well, so maybe I'm not sure how aware you were. I refereed a lot of rugby games after playing rugby, and Nigel used to coach me a bit. So he's one of my mentors when I was refereeing. So I know Nigel quite well. Yes,
for some reason that became apparent in my mind when you were talking about farming and rugby, and then the two go together.
Yeah,
it's been an absolute honour that you've showed up, and the flow of this has been what I wanted. So thank you so much for doing that. Is there anything else you'd like to say to people who are watching and thinking of becoming a presenter, etc.?
Just from my experience, I never expected or never thought I'd be a TV presenter from my teens, and it just struck me out of nowhere, and I just took the leap to want to do it.
Yes.
Worked hard. I probably worked too hard at times. And my partner would say I need to take a step back, which I'm trying to improve on. But I think if you are, especially with TV presenting, you've got to give it a go. It's difficult to find an in at times, but once you find that in, take the opportunity, get to know the people, and work hard. And if I can do it, I'm sure that people can do it as well.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I say the same thing. If I can write a book, anybody can write a book. And I think it's a very healthy mental viewpoint and perspective. So I wish you well for the rest of your Thursday. Have a fabulous day.
Thank you.
And we'd love to see you again sometime to catch up with where you are in your career.
Please.
And thank you again.
Please. No, thank you. Thanks for the invite. Much appreciated.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Ta-ra.